Comment section lit up. We haven't even started yet. I just felt like this was better for a live than if I were to do a pre-recorded video on it with, a bunch of points or whatever. I feel like this is tailor-made for debate. MVP debates have happened in basketball and sports as long as I can remember, but not in the WNBA. One is not allowed. I don't know if you know this. One is not allowed to mention anybody else but A'ja Wilson when it comes to MVP. If you do, it is blasphemous, and the fire of hell shall strike up upon you. I guess. So last night, right? I'm watching some of the Aces and the Lynx game, and I realize that the Aces are skidding, and I look at the standings and I see them at 5th, and I just tweet out. I can't recall unanimous MVP ever being 5th in the standings. And all of a sudden, I'm getting yelled at. All these things well, you're about to, buddy. How dare you, CC Stan? Dare mention. And I think that's part of the issue people have with this whole thing is that has been the mentality no, it's A'ja. Anybody else is brought up shall perish. And I've never remembered that being how sports MVP debates work. I mean, the NBA MVP is debated all year, every single year. Every single year, people debate that thing. Even when it's essentially decided, right? Even when it's essentially been determined who's going to be the MVP, you still hear other names brought up, and you still hear, well, so-and-so has put themselves into the MVP debate, or so-and-so has entered the MVP conversation. Did you know that in NBA history, there is only one unanimous MVP in the history of the NBA? That is Steph Curry. The year that he broke a 3-point record and the Warriors had the best record in the history of the league. Right? The one time. LeBron James was never a unanimous MVP. Michael Jordan was never a unanimous MVP. Ever. LeBron should have been. I mean, we all know, I can tell you right now, and no disrespect to him, I just remember Gary Washburn of the Boston Globe voted for Carmelo Anthony that year. It was a big deal that anybody else got voted for other than LeBron James that year, because it kept him from being the unanimous MVP. So that's one of the reasons I know. So to see a team sitting in 5th and everybody talks about you cannot even discuss or mention the fact that maybe there could be a conversation is kind of funny to me, especially when you look at the way the Rookie of the Year debate was framed early in the year, right? The Rookie of the Year debate early in the year was well, the Sky have a better record. I think it was Monica McNutt. And nothing wrong with this, by the way. I'm not even mad. I just mean Monica McNutt had said at one point that because the Sky had the better record, Reese had the advantage in Rookie of the Year. So I'm just wondering, does record matter or not? And then, another aspect of it with the Olympic debate, everybody said, well, you have to earn it. This is not a popularity contest. The 12 best players make it to the Olympic team, and that's that, full stop. Well, the Aces have 3 other Olympians aside from A'ja Wilson. They've got 1/3. The Aces have 1/3 of Team USA on their team. So all of a sudden, those players aren't any good anymore? They don't matter? And so I wonder that, there's a question, is it Uchi Wally or is it one Mike? Which one is it? Does record matter? Are the Olympians good? Or does record not matter? And are the Olympians not good? Now, with that said, A'ja Wilson, it's hard to argue completely against her for MVP or to say she shouldn't be the MVP. This is not the point. The point is, the door is opened a little bit, right? It's opened a little bit. But if you look at Asia's numbers, she's leading the league in scoring. She's second in rebounding. She's first in blocks, I believe. Second in steals. I mean, she's filling up the stat sheet. So, especially like because the rate she's doing it is historic, you could easily make the case that A'ja Wilson obviously is the MVP and should be the MVP. And the odds would back that up. The betting markets have her at about a minus 3,000 favorite. That is a huge favorite. So maybe she will be the unanimous MVP. Maybe. But I just generally don't recall the unanimous MVP coming from a team that underachieved. And I think everyone would probably agree relative to the expectations for the back-to-back defending champs with multiple Olympians, the Aces have underachieved. Now, that doesn't mean A'ja can't be the MVP. I don't believe there's any uniform definition for MVP. I think MVP truly is, you should take the acronym, most valuable player. Who do you determine is, in your mind, providing the most value for their team and more value than any other player in the league? That's how I look at it. So can a lower seeded team player get MVP? Absolutely. Sure. I'm not saying that can't be the case. Brought to you by Polar Seltzer. Still waiting on you guys. So I'm not saying A'ja can't win the MVP. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying it's opened it up enough. And then when you open it up like that, okay, what happens? Other players start to get mentioned, right? So who else deserves to be mentioned? Let me start with Sabrina Ionescu of the New York Liberty. The Liberty have the best record in the NBA. Sabrina Ionescu is having the best season of her career. She is filling out the box score across the board, points, rebounds, assists. Her on-off court numbers are good. So Sabrina deserves mention. The problem Sabrina is going to face is that she plays on the same team as Breanna Stewart, who is the reigning MVP. Stewie was the MVP of the WNBA last season. So it's going to be tough to separate Sabrina from Stewie. When you say, like, okay, why? And not to mention, they got Jonquel Jones on that team, too. So it's a very strong, very good team. But Sabrina certainly deserves, given the season that she's had, the respect to be mentioned. As does Napheesa Collier, who obviously got the best of A'ja last night. And Napheesa is averaging 20 points and 10 rebounds efficiently, shooting the ball well. She's taking 3 fewer field goal attempts than A'ja per game. So if you were to say she's taking 3 more attempts per game, she would get closer in points scored. She leads the WNBA in defensive win shares. Whatever you take that advanced metric to mean, she's number 1 in defensive win shares on a team that is a half game out of the second seed right now without other Olympians on it. The problem for Napheesa is that she was injured and she missed some time. And because of that, it's going to be hard for her to catch up to A'ja. It's going to be hard. Because, you don't provide any value to your... usually like a game or two can show how valuable you are. Like you miss a game or two and your team totally submarines and all that. And then people could say, oh, look at that. Look at the value, right? But when the gap is what it is and you're trying to catch up, it's going to be hard when there is this certain number of games where you provided no value to the team. So that, I think, is the hardest part for Napheesa. Now, I also think there are some people online who do not understand what the word unanimous means, and they are conflating it with guaranteed or something to that effect. rather than unanimous, meaning you receive every single vote. So keep that in mind. Now, after I've buried the lead there, let me get to the lead. That is Caitlin Clark. The player with the best chance to catch A'ja Wilson, no matter what anybody wants to tell you, is Caitlin Clark. By the numbers, by the production, by any way to look at these things. Caitlin is currently second in the betting markets with A'ja Wilson. And let me also remark when I say this, I've declared the Rookie of the Year debate over. And if you were to apply the same logic to the gambling odds, one would say the MVP debate is over. But things are trending differently. The Rookie of the Year debate is trending where Caitlin is running away from it. This is trending where Caitlin is catching up to A'ja. And people say, why do you have to use the word catching up? Though I'm using the word catching up because A'ja is ahead. Now, some people have just declared it a fait accompli. That cannot be argued since the beginning of the season. And I would be stunned if someone other than A'ja Wilson wins the MVP, both from her deserving it and from her basically just being declared the MVP by the W media early on. But the way the Fever started the season makes it so Caitlin has an uphill climb. I don't think she can get there. And even for me, like, I don't think I could make the case for her if the Fever don't get to over 500. But they certainly seem to be heading in that direction. They're 13-15 right now. Of course, they started the season, I think it was 1-8. So let's just live in a world where the Fever get to the 6th seed. They're a game and a half behind the Mercury, and they're over 500. And the Aces remain in the 5th seed. Is the difference between 5 and 6 enough to declare the debate over and done with? Despite the fact that one team had the number 1 pick in the draft 2 consecutive years, and the other team is the back-to-back champs with 4 Olympians on it? Because Caitlin, again, people are having a really hard time accepting this. They're having a really hard time accepting this, but she's doing it for real. Like, it's not about so-and-so propping her up or so-and-so saying this. She's doing it for real. You know, she leads the entire league in points generated, meaning points that have been either scored by her or off of her assists. She leads the entire league in assists. She's going to break the all-time record for assists in a season. So historical, not rookie record, the all-time record for assists in a season. She's going to break that. She leads all guards in rebounds and blocks. So no one at her position is rebounding the ball better or blocking more shots than Clark. Her current averages of 17.8 points per game and 8.3 assists per game have never been achieved. No player has ever had totals that high in those two categories in the history of the league. Her current averages, which are going up because Caitlin, since July, has averaged 22 points and 12 assists. So let's say she keeps that up the rest of the year, finishes at 20 points per game and 10 assists per game for the season, and the Fever are over 500. She doesn't deserve MVP consideration because it was preordained that she shouldn't, because of some sort of like penance one must pay in order to be mentioned as a good player in the league. I mean, that's silly, no? So there it is. I laid it out for you. You can check out everything I just said is in the link in the description below. Women's Fast Break on SI. I wrote a piece on this earlier today that essentially is all I just spieled at you. But you can check it out for yourself. And without further ado, I will get to the comments. Kevin says, chat already lit for this debate. Yeah, I'm scared to even go over there. He also adds Clark is the MVP of this channel, which is true. I mean, Clark is the MVP of the WNBA from an attention and all that standpoint. It cannot be argued. But aside from that, look, everybody always tries to make those points. She's bringing all this attention, ratings, whatever. It's been basketball based, I think, from the beginning. And I'm making the basketball argument. This is a purely basketball argument. And I don't want any of that toxicity that I see in some of these debates online when we're talking about that. We are talking about basketball, nothing else. Basketball argument, all good. Anything else is polluting the conversation. You're allowed to talk about basketball in a good-hearted, good-spirited, good-natured way without people calling you names or making allegations or whatever the case may be. All right, let me get to the comments. If you would like, obviously, your comment read sooner, then put it up in a super chat or something to that effect. Craven LeVay says, what is catching? As far as I know, Asia is stats padded. Caitlin did not have to fight her coach. I mean, they figured it out over the end. And I'm not going to say that Asia is stat padding. Slime is in his feelings. He says, you're an absolute clown, and anybody else who thinks CC can catch Asia. Why, Slime? I would ask you. That is my retort whenever somebody says you're a clown or this. Do you have an argument? If you have an argument, I would love to hear your argument presented so we could talk about your argument and discuss your argument and debate your argument. But simply saying I'm a clown and anybody who thinks this is a clown is not really a very good argument. D8 says scenario: Fever go 9-3 to finish 22-16, 22-18, 6 spot. Caitlin goes 25-6-11 those games. Vegas goes 8-5, 25-15. Asia goes 24-10, 2 blocks per game. Who wins? All right, so that would make the. I mean, I think if that were to happen, Caitlin has a real case. She does. I mean, she's gonna finish second. She's gonna finish second. Do you usually go into the streams of clowns to watch them? Prodigal says, first off, Asia and Stewart are 1 and 2 for MVP. No, they're not. I mean, Stewart right now is behind Sabrina on her own team. I think by pretty much any way you measure it. Now, it doesn't mean you can't argue she's the second best player in the league. You can certainly argue that. I think that the two most important Olympians were Asia and Brianna. I don't think it's too early in the season. I mean, we're pretty late in the season. In fact, usually the talk starts much earlier in the season for awards like this. Look, I don't think Caitlin's going to win it. Even if Caitlin deserved to win it, I don't think she's going to win it. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about it. Hawkeye says a run at MVP would require CC to greatly improve her outside shooting. As good as she is, her shooting has been subpar this season. I wouldn't say it's been subpar. Maybe for her. Let me look at the numbers compared to the rest of the league. I mean, her volume is high, right? And her distance is high. What's the league average? Caitlin is 24th in the league in 3-point percentage right now, right next to Kalia Copper, Julie Van Loo, Katie Luce, So I would imagine she's right around average or better for the entirety of the league. Yeah, if it comes up a little bit, you're going to see her point totals jump. I mean, I think ideally she'd be around, given the kind of shot she's taken, 35, 36%, something like that. Independent Aquaman says, based on what the word can means in the dictionary, 1, yes. 2, but even if the media and vote rigging doesn't occur, look, I'm not saying it's not going to be vote rigged, but people have already made up their minds. Yeah, writers and stuff vote for the MVP. What up, AJ? Was I late? I don't think I was late. Whatever I said was definitely facts. But Dean really has a problem with my hair. Look, I came out of the shower, so I didn't really style it, and it's annoying me right now. And I got to get myself all cleaned up in general. But I got good hair. I don't care what you say, but Dean, that's not something I've ever been concerned with. Well, this is what I brought up before, Basil. Before it was wins and losses were what mattered, and Olympians were. How dare you besmirch any Olympian? Now that wins and losses are not helping Asia, and the Olympians aren't helping Asia. It's that stuff doesn't matter. That was the joke. Is it Uchiwali or is it one Mike? For those of you who don't understand that reference, um, that is from a Jay-Z diss to Nas, where Nas has songs. One of them is One Mic, which is about like the power of an individual and inspiration and uplifting. And then Uchiwali, which is frivolous and degrading. So he's basically pointing out the hypocrisy in that. Um, Maurice says MVP talk goes like this: Fever have won against more 500 teams than the Aces. Well, look, I mean, I think the Fever versus Aces games are going to be very interesting as a result of this. AJ, regarding what you said about F1, with 10 races left in the season, do you think Sir Lewis Hamilton is regretting making the move to Ferrari next year? Seems Mercedes now has a championship car again. Is there that much of a difference between a Mercedes and a Ferrari? Ferrari don't make good cars? I've always thought of a Ferrari as a nice car. I think in this case, AJ, the driver, is going to be the difference maker because of Sir Lewis Hamilton. I don't know. James says at this point, I only think if it was a postseason award, barring an insane performance by Clark, but definitely Rookie of the Year. I mean, I mostly agree. I think Asia is overwhelmingly likely to win the MVP, and Caitlin is overwhelmingly likely to win the Rookie of the Year. But it's fun to talk about. These debates have always happened, and Caitlin is playing well enough to make the case with doing historical things, while at the same time Asia's team is struggling a bit. I appreciate the chats, guys. Thank you. Well, I don't know if anybody's still making the case for Angel, to be honest. Where are we at here? Trying to get back to the right spot. Yeah, I mean, I do think there is a little bit of this because I don't know if you guys are aware, because there's some new a lot of new fans, obviously, but Stewart won the MVP last year, and some people thought it should have been Asia. So, in order to make up for the injustice of last year, Asia was crowned very early. Now, she is also deserving of it. Like, she's put up the performance to be in the, she's put up the performance to back that up. It's not like it's empty calories, if you will. But the door has at least been cracked to have the conversation now. But I mean, the WNBA, look, there's a lot of sunlight shining on the WNBA right now. And sunlight's the best disinfectant. They've got the biggest star pointed directly at them. They're no longer going to be covered like an indie band. They're at the top of Billboard now. So things just ain't the same for gangsters. It's easy for Rookie of the Year and MVP. Paris Johnson with a laughing emoji. It's just funny, like, how soft do some of these people have to be? They can't even handle the conversation. Like, so soft. All we need is one hype. Collier is in the conversation, but Asia is ahead. There definitely should be a discussion. I think Clark can make a push for second. Definitely not unanimous, Asia. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Alan. Like, it just makes me laugh for all that talk. Like, these are the 12 best players. It's on merit. They're not handing it out. Well, she got 3 of the other 12 on her team. They suck now? What happened? What happened to that issue all we're spouting for months? What happened to it? Or what happened to record mattering? You know, wasn't Angel ahead of Caitlin for a while because the Sky were a half game ahead in the standings? What happened to that? Did the rules change? The goalpost move? I'm sorry. And I never said any of that stuff, by the way. But it's just funny to me. Why is it absurd? Again, like, anybody who calls me a clown or says it's absurd, why? Tell me why. Because that would be much more productive. If you think something, like, if I tell you something's absurd, I was like, this is absurd because, and then I will support my claims of absurdity. Bernie says Clark is the best player in the world. Clark is running the team. Clark is the basketball mastermind, not Asia. Jack Spawn, only way I see CC winning MVP is a massive win streak with massive stats and a massive losing streak with diminished stats. Look, I mean, I think it comes down to how close they are in the standings. Asia very well might break the scoring record. And again, not saying she doesn't deserve it or won't be the MVP. But Clark is also going to break the assist record. And Clark is probably going to Clark is going to have a higher points and assists total than any player ever. And assists count for points too. You know, I'm working my way up here. My guy, Martel. We'll see how it all shakes out. Another one from I don't know, James. The postseason assumes a fever run. Cousin was walk-on in college, made Pro Bowl as a receiver. ESPN has mostly abandoned Reese. Anything's possible. Look, I think, yeah, I think the Fever got some mojo right now. I do. I think they got some mojo right now. I think they have really good players. Obviously, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell. They're getting Temi Benley back. If they found something with Lexi Hull, I'm not ruling anything out with the Indiana Fever right now. And I believe in Caitlin to that degree. You know, she's a difference maker. So I'm not ruling anything out. But yes, the Reese thing, I talked about this, I think, on the last live. But I've seen the engagement and I've seen, you know, the chatter that generates. And look, we're all in the content business, so fair game. You want people to click on your videos. You want people to click on your articles. That's all well and good. But at the same time, I thought there came a point in time where it was like overcompensation for Caitlin. And because Clark was so hyped and so pushed, they had to push back. And when there was a little sliver of opportunity, when Angel was playing as well as she was, it got jumped on. And then not just jumped on, they jumped in the pool, right? They dove in and they just kept pushing it and kept pushing it and kept pushing it and kept pushing it to the point where it became a farce. And that's why you see the crickets. Because usually you're not going to get the mea culpas. Usually you're not going to get the people who come out and say, you know what, I was wrong. I was wrong. My bad. You generally don't get that. You just get like, I'm not talking about it anymore. Which I guess is better than passing off Clark as the 15th best player in the league or the 6th best rookie in the league. You know? Boxing and Bulldogs. I don't ever recall an MVP being called a foregone conclusion a quarter of the way through the season. The ESPN propaganda has been nonstop. Yeah, I mean it's different. The W thing is a different beast. Yeah. AJ says if Fever win the finals, will Kanye take the MVP award away from Asia? I got to be real with you. That's how I learned who Taylor Swift was. I didn't know who Taylor Swift was until that happened. So while it was a very rude thing for Kanye to do, I did find out who Taylor Swift was as a result of that. I did. See, she should win because she's the best player, full stop. Deep down in St. Louis, you can catch me in St. Louis. Asia plays on a super loaded team. Again, that's the point I made up earlier. Like 1/3, she plays with 1/3 of the Olympic team. And now I'm like that. And like Asia, this is the part that drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. Like I'm actually having struggles with it because I look at Asia's production and I agree she's having a historic season and an MVP caliber season. But at the same time, I heard so many people yelling at me and everybody else for the longest time about how great the Olympic team was and how the process was flawless and it was definitely based on merit and only the best players got selected. And she's got all the best players on her team and she's still the MVP despite them being fifth in the standings. Like those things don't jive. They don't jive. And no one has addressed that. All the arguing they did for, how great the Olympic team was and how unbeatable and unstoppable and clearly, the best players chosen it was. Right? We all heard that. So that doesn't count now? That doesn't count? I'm just wondering. If you took Asia off the Aces, are they a playoff team? If you took Caitlin off the Fever, they a playoff team. Well, yeah, I mean, actually, I don't think either is a playoff team, to be honest with you. Right now. The Aces backcourt is barbecue chicken. Chelsea Gray and Kelsey Plum cannot guard anybody. No, it's not. The MVP has nothing to do with what they do for the WNBA. Caitlin's drawing power and all that has nothing to do with an MVP conversation and should not be considered. Asia Wilson is a great player. Her stats are insane. However, Caitlin is the most exciting player and makes everyone around her better. My man, DS. Steph was on a 73-win Warriors and he won MVP. Yes, he is the only unanimous MVP in NBA history, Steph Curry. And in order to do so, he had to have an all-time great season on the team that won more games than any team ever. It was both. I don't think he would have been a unanimous MVP had the Warriors not been 73-9. He wouldn't have been. He would not have been. Again, this doesn't count. But whether or not look, Kate Martin is selling more merchandise than Asia Wilson. But that doesn't matter. Asia Wilson could not sell a single pair of shoes or a single jersey, and I would never hold that against her in an MVP debate. Nor Clark could come to my house and give me $1 million, and I wouldn't argue for her as a result of that when it comes to basketball. The smartest thing Reese did was attach her brand to CC. Oh, not to say much, but I'm a conservative Swiftie and believe we thought for her to opine. I don't. Well, look, I mean, I think Reese being attached to Caitlin certainly helped her. I don't think being in the Rookie of the Year debate any longer or being attached to her now helps her. I think she has gotten to the point where she can shine on her own. But yes, I mean, she became. I mean, look, it helped Caitlin to a certain degree too. Caitlin was already a phenomenon, but it was even bigger than anything else when that whole interaction happened. As far as Taylor Swift, Not saying she hasn't become huge. I was just saying before, that's how I found out who she was the Kanye thing. Obviously, Taylor Swift's the biggest musical artist on the planet now. Again, who's most valuable for the league does not matter. I will not accept that as an argument. Fever haven't seen the playoffs for years until Clark's arrival. Also, Clark has this team about to pass their total win total from last year. Look, it's an argument. I think it's an argument. It's not like, again, this is not made up. I'm not just trolling. Yes, it was preordained, BT616, and this. No one's saying that Asia isn't doing enough to win. All I'm saying is I've never heard in the history of MVP debates, in my years and years, I've been doing this a long time, man. I played basketball, played basketball, watched basketball my whole life. I covered it in some way, shape, or form professionally for 20 years. And I can't recall ever anybody saying, you cannot even possibly mention anyone else. How dare you? Like, I can't remember that. So am I saying Asia's not going to win the MVP? No. Am I saying that Clark is making it a discussion? Yes. And deserves to be in the discussion? Yes. As does Sabrina, as does Nafisa, whether or Asia wins or not. Asia is having a historic season production-wise. I'm not taking credit away from her. But they are the 5th seed right now. And she plays with 1/3 of the Olympic team, including herself. Too late for 10 assists per game. Best she can do is 9. Well, she's going to be hovering around there. Yeah, I mean, she does have to pay her dues. We've learned that. There is an argument to be made. I like your father that this could wind up being the best season in history by Asia. And if it stacks up like that at the end and she wins unanimous MVP, it's going to be hard to argue the best season isn't worth unanimous MVP. Clark is also doing unprecedented things. Again, like Clark's point, I keep saying it, but her points and assist totals have never been reached by any player in WNBA history before. So, depending on what those numbers look like and what the records look like, respectively, at the end of the year, that's why I think we still got 1/3 of the season left to play. Clark will probably get the MVP next year, most likely. How is this shameful? Where everybody's having this discussion. It's shameful? You're going to send me to my room? I'm already in the basement. 4 Olympians and are in 5th place. As a league losing major money, it should be taken into consideration. Though I played for a SC team that lost to Wofford. We'll continue. Look, no, I mean, what Clark has done to the impact of the economics and the financials of the WNBA is invaluable, and that's inarguable. But the MVP is a basketball award. So to me, it should not be taken into consideration when discussing the MVP, because the MVP should be about what people do on the court. But look, I mean, this is generating more attention because Clark's name is attached to it. There's no question about that. Not sure what Kevin's laughing at, but I think Caitlin will be the heavy favorite going into next year. This 22-2 is another Jay-Z reference. 22-2s. That's what we're going to call this argument from now on. 22 versus 22. I told y'all weeks ago that the conversation was going to shift to Caitlin versus Angel to Caitlin versus Asia. And here we are. I would love to see the Aces play the Fever in the playoffs. Look, you're entitled to think her game is boring, Asia's game, that is. Dog, you didn't have to pay for an autocorrect, my man. I would have helped you out. But I appreciate all of your contributions today to the show. Thank you very much. Cheryl Swoops is gone. Aw, thank you, Sandra. I'm not a clown. I'm sweet and adorable, BT616. How do you respond to those labels, BT6? When you don't find me sweet and adorable, you find me clownish and embarrassing. I'm going to go with sweet and adorable. I'm sticking to it. The Aces do have a much better record against, teams that are not as good. If I'm a clown, the chat is a circus. Yes, lots of people go to specifically watch. Do they? Do circuses? I don't know. Are they still doing business? I know you like me, Basil. Caitlin has a big negative statement in her turnovers where Asia doesn't for someone who has the ball delivered to her. Yeah, look, Asia's also blocks and steals. She's up there, though. Caitlin leads all guards and blocks. And Nafisa leads all players in defensive win shares. I think Asia's like 30th in defensive win shares. Now, that's a little unfair because her teammates could be hurting her there too, because they can't guard anybody on the perimeter. They cannot guard anybody on the perimeter. It's rough. Rough. Oh, wow. We got another record setting crowd today, by the way. Hi, Kim. I mean, is 43% from the field that bad for a guard who shoots a bunch of 30-footers? We're not talking about the NBA. I mean, like, I don't think, what's her true, where's she ranking true shooting percentage? I would bet you it's pretty high. And again, there's a third of the season left. TD Sports Cards, there you go. CC has been shooting 36 per 3 since the first 10 games. Goes along with Sabrina and Plum numbers. Can you relate? There is a legitimate argument for her being in the MVP race 100%. Will she get it as a discussion for another day? Sunny D. Tangy says, I personally think MVP should be the player that contributes the most points, wins, and makes their teammates better overall players. I think it's right in the title. Which player provides the most value to their team? Now, that is up for debate, but you can make the debate. You can make the case that that's Caitlin Clark. Among WNBA guards, first in assists, first in rebounds, first in blocks, first in points created, fifth in points, seventh in steals. Oh, no, true shooting percentage is fifth. Points is seventh. Steals is seventh, sorry. And the points are going to go up. And this is true. She's also being guarded much more heavily than most. And there are some that will do anything to avoid giving Caitlin Clark credit. Well, I mean, I think they're both putting up superstar numbers already. I think, but people will take the Liberty's record into consideration. The writers who had the vote. BT616, you're not arguing against my points. I mean, you got to argue against my points, my man. Yes, I do this for the views, like, duh, but I believe what I'm saying. I'm not making it up. Kevin says, I heard CC will be on the Fast Count soon. That's Kevin's channel, covering professional wrestling. Check it out. I'll be on with Denise Salcedo tomorrow night after SmackDown for the wrestling fans out there. Another one from, I haven't followed you a ton. What do you think of Cheryl Swoop's assessment of her, like, actually lying about? Yeah, look, I mean, I think Cheryl qualifies as a hater, right? Like, I think it's fair to label her a hater. She made statements that were just outright false, and she has, like she said Caitlyn was taking 40 shots a game. She also made the accusation that Caitlyn was breaking Kelsey Plum's scoring record in more seasons when that wasn't true. Then she went on to say, like, she wouldn't do what she was doing in the WNBA. She's left her out of conversations. She's praised her teammate. Like, all the stuff that is, you know, indicative of being a hater or shading somebody. And for whatever reason, it seems Cheryl Swoops doesn't like Caitlyn or doesn't like the attention that Caitlyn's getting. Maybe that's because of her storied career and her not getting the attention in her storied career, or her career being threatened, whatever. I don't know why exactly. At the same time, there was a moment there where people took a quote that she didn't say and ran with it, which you can't do either. No matter who you're talking about, you have to be true. When people are responsible for what they say, they're not responsible for something they didn't say. But I honestly think people are just giving her too much energy. If you're a Caitlin Clark fan, there's just no need to give her the energy. Clearly the best point guard in the WNBA. No, this is absolutely true. I don't think Angels things are minimized at all. I think Angels being celebrated quite a bit. Quite a bit. Both CC and Asia passed the eye test. Yeah. No, more viewers doesn't equate to value in an MVP debate. Asia is definitely going to break some records for sure. Again, what's your argument against me, BT616? Like, what am I saying that is wrong? Honestly, like, what am I saying that is wrong? I'm saying, well, I don't think it's wild to talk about Clark amongst the very best players. I've said she's the best guard in the league for a minute, right? I think she's clearly a top 5 player in the league, and I think that's being conservative. So ain't much more room. It's, to me, it's Asia and Stewie and Clark, Copper, Sabrina, Nafisa. Those are the best players in the league. And Clark is like, I don't know how to, I am being measured. I mean, she is doing historical things. Those, you can measure them, and they're historic. More points generated than any player. Going to break the all-time assist record. Going to have points and assists totals that have never been done before in WNBA history. Averaging 22 points and 12 assists since July started. Leading all guards in blocks. Leading all guards in rebounds. Leading an offense that has been tough to... it is measured. Everything I'm saying is based on fact. Where, I don't think when you have done what Asia has done and already won multiple times, you get the benefit of the doubt of tenure, of having proven it over a longer period of time. And in order to pass that, one must be certain that that has occurred. But I think it is far less measured to not have Clark right in the conversations with the very best players in the league. I think that is not being measured at this point. Aces have a tough schedule. I mean, you're not considered a unanimous MVP or not. A unanimous MVP is who votes the most. A unanimous MVP just is who you get all the votes. No one else gets a vote. That's what unanimous means. The record is 316. I was talking about the single season assist record, Maurice. King Beck says Asia is MVP. I think most people would agree. Sabrina, I think, is probably out tonight. Yes. Um, Even if there were and Asia were to win MVP, I think she should also win. Um, I think she should also win Offensive Player of the Year if she's good enough to win MVP. No, that's not the plan. I was just cheekily responding to a comment. I don't know why you're so angry today, my man. Again, yes, this. So, like, if you want to make the case that Asia is putting up a historic stat line, so is Caitlin. Like, again, is it Uchi Wally or is it one Mike? You cannot argue one thing out of one side of your mouth and then not accept it when it comes back the other way. Yes, this would be true. But it also probably it shouldn't be up to fan votes. But yes. No, no one's rioting. That would be stupid. This is also true. Caitlin pushes the pace. I don't know who's the OG gatekeeper here today. BT616, what is ridiculous? Please counter what I'm saying instead of just insulting me and responding to everybody's comments about it. I appreciate that you've been in here since the beginning. I don't think I'm being over the top or ridiculous in any way, shape, or form. Well, look, I mean, I think that's how a lot of these WNBA teams would work. That's what's going to happen with um, the Fever too. I mean, they got Boston #1 and they got Clark #1. How do you think they're going to get there? Plum put, yeah, I would throw out the results of the Fever and Aces game from earlier in the year. We're talking about a different Fever team now than we saw earlier in the year. Brogad says, salute. I've watched the games and Asia is carrying team record, not her fault. Fair enough. Look, I mean, I think when you look at the way Asia's playing, it's undeniable. But I just do find it humorous that, for other things, I was told the record is what mattered. And for other things, I was told her teammates were clearly the best. So when the record falls and the teammates aren't showing up, everything I was told was rubbish. Obviously, you care, dog. You're in here. Like, if you didn't care, what are you even doing here? I think this is kind of true. People that, you know, it the power dynamics may change of the league a little bit. There's Donald's rankings: Asia, Brianna, Thomas, Sabrina, Fee. Who is saying fans are delusional? How she leads the league in assists and out. Again, the views should not count for this, guys. If we're talking about MVP, the views should not count. Tokyo says it's hard year for MVP decision. Both CC and Asia can have good seasons to win it. Because of CC, I booked TD game the day I found they play. Yeah, look, I mean, that is not an argument. There is no argument that Caitlin Clark has the most motion. That's not an argument that exists. But I do think the delusion to the last point is now more coming from people who aren't Clark fans than the Clark fans, because Clark is doing things that are undeniable. See, the race thing, this is the weirdest thing ever. I've never heard race brought up in basketball discussion. I mean, I'm sure it happened with Larry Bird, back in the day. But I've never really heard it brought up in basketball discussions before in my life, and I've been playing and watching basketball my whole life, and I never thought about it with LeBron James or Michael Jordan or any of the other greats of the game over the years who have been celebrated and whatever. Um, or even with the European players over in the NBA. It's a seems to be a women's basketball specific thing. And I hope it goes away because I don't think it has really anything to do with anything in actual, you know, results or interest or any of that. Like Sabrina's a white girl, um, and straight. Kelsey, we just mentioned. Obviously, Brianna Stewart, not the second part of that, but um, a white, player. Um, I just don't understand. Like with Caitlin, like I couldn't point to Iowa on a map. I don't know where it is. It's in the middle somewhere. I know that, but like I never thought to myself, "Oh, look at this white girl go." And I've never not rooted or supported or appreciated the game of a black player ever in my life. I've never, not to say that, of course, race is a part of life and history, and it's not the same as saying like I never see color or any of that stuff. We all understand there are complexities to that, and there is precedent to that, and there's history, and there's very ugly history, and there's very recent history as well. But when it comes to basketball, I've never heard it brought up so often as with this. And I think we're past it now. I would hope. All of this is premature. Of course, it's just fun sports talk. Because the MVP is a basketball award, Frank. It's not a viewership award. It's not a collective bargaining increase award. It's a basketball award. And how many people pay to watch Caitlin Clark play or watch Caitlin Clark play should not make her more valuable than Asia Wilson on a basketball court. That is about how well each play basketball, respectively. I don't think it's out of the question. I don't think it's out of the question. The problem with stats like that, Kayla, is they are, team based in a way. They're not, it's like what your defensive rating is versus what your team's defensive rating is with you on the floor versus what it is with you off the floor and all that. Like it's like a nice ancillary thing, but it doesn't really give you the true answer. Defensive stats have always been notoriously hard to get a handle on. Get real peeps. Well, I mean, I think it is. It is said Asia is better, but Clark, well, who's more fun to watch is also not, shouldn't factor in the MVP debate. Why not fan votes, money talks, BS walks, try to get Wilson Reese ball versus the Clark one? Yeah, look, I mean, we all understand. I'm no one can argue that Caitlin Clark is generating more money, more attention, or more of those things. No one can argue that. There was some anger towards Stewie winning it last year, and I think that's part of the groundswell of support for Asia early in the year to make it like to justify and right the wrong of last year, especially after Asia outplayed her in the finals. What up, Bryce? How are you, man? I'm just going to let somebody else fire back at BT616 for me for a second. Some Clark support. Some arguments in the chat. Where's the Asia supports? My guy here. Where is she's definitely going to break the assist record. This is also true, and the WNBA has generally favored the bigs. She took more mid ranges than I've seen, and more floaters in that last game. True shooting percentage is instead of like field goal percentage is easy, right? It's the percentage of the field goals you take that you make. True shooting percentage factors in the worth of a 3-point shot and weights it more heavily, and also takes into account free throws. So it's a combination of your field goal percentage, your 3-point percentage, and your free throw percentage mashed into one number. Brogad says it's nothing against Clark. I just don't see the argument how she leapfrogs Fee, who is elite both ways. Without her, Lynx would be below Fever. Look, Nafisa's I mentioned as part of the conversation as well. She did miss some time due to injury, but I'm happy to make the case for anybody and everybody, and allow all the points of view to be presented. Do you listen to music or you just skim through it? That's how it's hard to say that Renegade, like Jay got washed that hard on Renegade, because we got quotables from it right here. Wow, so many chats. And look at this. Brogad says it's Nafis. I said, but he has no problem saying she's the, and that I think is a healthy and fair, place to be. You don't have to. That's why we have these conversations and these debates. Who is the child I was getting upset? I'm just having fun, Nobody's actually upset me in here. I don't know. Monica's very smart. I would love to hear her thoughts on this, to be honest, right now. We're talking about Cheryl Swoop's shoes? I was trying to understand. I was trying to read that quickly. The thing is, Caitlyn is just more dynamic than Sabrina. She's just more dynamic. Best players in the league, yes, but better than Asia, no. Look, I mean, if you think Asia is the best player in the league, it's a very fair point of view. And Asia is likely going to win the MVP. I do watch the games. I'm not watching the highlights unless you're talking to somebody else, which sometimes is the case in these chats. They are both breaking records. What counters do you want me to address, Donald? I've put your chats up multiple times throughout this show. I'm pretty much putting almost everything up on the screen that I can see. Look, even this one. Idiot. There's about 20 other players would be MVP before that clown. Get a life. She won't win Rookie of the Year. That's Angel Reese. So, is that a counter? Does that count as a counter? Because it's not much of a counter argument, but it's the other side of the equation. CC is CC, and yes, she's going to do CC things. Okay. Oh my goodness. I missed everything up until now. Recap. I mean, you're going to have to start from the beginning. Sorry. Record will matter. Sabrina is currently balling out in New York. Sabrina, Asia, Fee is my top 3. Well, yes. I mean, the whole premise, to address the catch up part of it too. The whole premise started with the Fever they're going to have to be over 500 to make a serious case for Caitlyn, but they're certainly trending in that direction. I would be surprised if the Fever do not finish the season over 500. Thank you, Bernie. I appreciate that. I would love that new guard to also do great. Rank the top 5 players in order. As of this very moment, with respect to tenure, I'll say Asia, Stewart, Clark, Copper, Sabrina. Jackie Young might be up there too. Oh no, I missed Collier. I'm sorry. Uh, Copper, Collier, Sabrina. But I mean, I'm obviously. I think Clark will be at the top sooner rather than later, and I'm only hesitating because of the fact that she's in the middle of a rookie year. It's like saying LeBron can't be given MVP. Are we talking about Asia or Caitlin? I agree with you, Bobby. CC's paving the way. Juju walking. Juju's a freshman, so she can't come until like 2027. Is there a reason that all the white players are? Why is there no? So white American male players have generally not been, prolific in the NBA. I don't know why. To be honest with you, I mean, Cooper Flagg might be the number one pick in the next draft. He's white. Larry Bird, one of the best players of all time, white. I would say in the WNBA, it's different where the WNBA is predominantly a black league, but there is a higher percentage of elite white players. I never really thought about it or cared, to be honest with you. It's like, the way I've always viewed basketball is game recognized game, real recognized real. And if you can play, you can play. It doesn't matter what you look like, where you came from, all that stuff. And eventually everybody respects that. And that's how I've always viewed it and looked at it. And I never really, taken into consideration or overthought it too much or cared that there weren't white American players in the NBA. I mean, there are some, but that they weren't, the standout players. Fever. Did I ban you? I did not ban you. I don't know what you're talking about. CC adjusted fast. She did. Asia is better stats wise, but who has the bigger impact and more exciting to watch? Caitlin. Again, more exciting to watch shouldn't matter. But the better stats, that's part of the whole. Let's see where we're at the end of the season. CC would be the number one choice in a W draft. Well, I think that is correct because you would take all these things into consideration. Yes, MVP is not a popularity contest. I agree with that. But again, I don't think it's a race thing because I think the amount of black fans Clark has is huge too. Anybody who likes basketball likes Caitlin Clark. I'm sorry. If you don't like Caitlin Clark, you don't like basketball. Tay Boogie says you will get stopped. CC will get some fourth and fifth place votes. We'll see how it. I think she'll finish second. I think she'll finish second. My goodness, I'm trying to keep up. Well, Gino's old comments are starting to look delusional. And this is another thing I'm bringing up. If she's breaking all these records, at what point does that become impossible to ignore? Muhammad says Asia's getting doubled outside of pick and roll every time, and Clark is getting picked up full court. They're both getting a lot of defensive attention. Chad Childress says Asia is legit, and barring CC scoring 40 a game the rest of the way, I think Asia should win. But it's not a knock on Asia to discuss runner-ups, aka in the conversation. CC should be in the conversation. Bryce Smith says Asia is going to win it. Some of y'all ain't watching Asia play. Super dope to watch. She's got really great footwork. She's got really great footwork. She runs the floor very well. She's got a buttery touch on her jump shot. You know, her jump shot kind of reminds me of Chris Bosh, to be honest with you. That's the first player I think of when I watch her shoot the basketball. She runs the floor. She's also strong and physical on the inside, bigger than most everybody else. So she's cleaning up big second jumps and stuff like that inside. Almost like a combination of Chris Bosh and Tim Duncan is where I would go with her game. Let me know if you agree or disagree with that. Neil says she's definitely the MVP. Yes, I do think Monica McNutt is very smart. I think she is a very intelligent woman. Was she wrong about the Caitlin Clark Rookie of the Year debate? I think so. I would love to hear her talk about it now, to be honest with you. Now, this is an interesting point because I felt like I saw her talk about it a lot, and now I'm not seeing her talk about it a lot. Yes, I'm a huge hip hop fan. The Pope, be frank. You can ask me any hip hop related questions. True shooting percentage right here. I'm assuming this is correct. So Asia is ahead of Collier, who is ahead or right around the same as Stewart. Alyssa Thomas behind. Caitlin Clark is second amongst the MVP candidates in true shooting percentage, according to TD Sports Cards. I mean, if they beat them in both remaining games, that's going to be interesting. 6 of the last 7 at home. Man. I don't think Alyssa Thomas is quite. Let me look at her numbers, though, for the season before. To be fair, she's a very good all-around player. Not much of a scorer. 11 points per game, but she's filling up the rest of the stat sheet. 9 rebounds, almost 8 assists. She is currently, by the way, the all-time assist record that Clark is gunning for. I've people have told me about your song before, but check it out, CC22. My fans would love it. Give you a little ad pop there for a second. Trying to strike a chord, and it's probably a minor. What a song and line and everything. What Kendrick did in that battle is one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in hip hop history. I mean, basketball fans are gonna, it's really a lot of loud online people against her, not really anything else. No one's saying she's not the MVP. So, Slime, again, Clark very well is likely going to, I think the Fever are going to finish 6th. If the Aces finish 5th and the Fever finish 6th, is that much of a difference? Kelsey Mitchell has been terrific. I'm trying. Is your song on YouTube and searchable? It must be, right? Drop it in the chat, the Pope. This is interesting, Akeem. There's another pop for his song. Brandon Sleep, no more Rookie of the Year talk on ESPN. Now it went quiet all of a sudden, right? It was talking about every day, and now no one says anything. That is pretty funny. Well, I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think Jay-Z is more versatile than Nas. Can make better different kinds of songs, has better albums overall, but Nas is one of the greats. All right. I think I made it through that's already decided before all that happens. Championship. That was a very, very active and boisterous chat. You've seen Jay-Z rap battle? I mean, he sucks there. How so? Where's your song, The Pope? Let me find it. CC22 The Pope. Here we go. This one. It's not like copyright, right? I'm not gonna get dinged for it. There you go.
Is back, and Dick's Sporting Goods has what you need to win your year. Check backpacks off your list.
With the first pick of the 2024 WNBA draft, the Indiana Fever select Caitlin Clark.
I am infinite.
You knew better, you do better. Who do it better? Be honest, do? Nah, 2 letters. CC, must see TV. Shooting from the deep. Wake up, don't vote, sleep. Beastie, couldn't lock it down in the precinct. Hit the John Cena, yo, you can't see me. Easy, R.I.P. the GG. Let her play with Juju. Out with the old, we the leaders of the new school. I let them all in points and times. Still they won't anoint my kind. Annoyed that I'm on point in kind. Arrived at the appointed time. Bottom line, don't avoid the bust. Yeah, we in the gym all day. Shooting logo threes, hit the rim, no way. See the swishes sweet, stay off them swishes sweets. BG, imagine when I hit my peak. Difference between us, I'm getting money like Serena and Venus. You're the opposite of a genius. Caitlin Clark, I'm a superstar. I can shoot it from Mars. Caitlin Clark. Trying to knock me down, but I get back up. Got a double team, the queen, best call for backup. Strong to the rack, but then I back up. Step back, take boot, or I'm strapped up. Try to knock me down, but I get back up. Got a double team, the queen, best call for backup. Strong to the rack, but then I back up. Step back, take boot, or I'm strapped up. Taking shots at me, must have missed your mark. I shoot it from the deep like I'm Caitlin Clark. Why they hate on me, must have a racist heart. We taking off for Caitlin Clark. She wired a different way out of your range. Think it's hype cause she white, must be highly deranged. Strange how the game try to downplay greatness. Put me in the game, Coach the Pope be on his Frank shit. Y'all flying charters, she flying spaceships. She sell out arenas, you sell out basements. Who cares you MVP, your game is basics. Better off hitting balls, running bases. Caitlin the Juker to all you aces. DT the face of the league, it need a facelift. Ancient old news don't make me open old wounds. In my ooze, out sure swoops. Rebecca Lobo, hating up on the low. Taking shots from the block, but not from the logo. Pro bono, no promo and no homo. She grew the league by herself, solo dono. Marco Polo, bitch up out of water. Now, by the hands that you needed 10 Carter. The shit started, a little bitch comments the bench warmer. They done woke up a monster, go a bit harder. Taking shots at me, must have missed your marks. I shoot it from the deep like I'm Caitlin Clark. Why they hate on me, must have a racist heart. We taking off for Caitlin Clark.
They woke a monster. I think I saw something where.
So that was pretty good, and I like the basement line. I like the she's selling out arena, you're selling out basements. It was interesting to me that you went in the race direction. I wasn't expecting that to be tackled. Did you call Rebecca Lobo a hater though? I don't think she's been a hater at all. You know, they but the Woka Monster stuff, the From Mars stuff, you know, in the future, maybe I can lay a verse for you if you want. I can rap myself. I was a freestyle rap battler back in my day. But there you go. There you go. I mean, like, why wouldn't I promote other, you know, like, it's all good. He's in here supporting me. I can support him, you know? And the reason I saw Basil say it's his song, he gave you permission. There are things like record labels and, you know, like that will hit you with, depending on where, you know, who owns the music and stuff like that. So there we go, guys. That was a fun show. Pope and Robin, see? I can do it. I'm no joke. No joke, guys. That's for real. All right. I think that is going to do it. It's a good way to sign off and to bid adieu to the chat for today. Let me make sure I got to all the super chats. I think I did. Wow, there's a lot of them today. Appreciate you guys. I did a rap song dissing Max, by the way, back in the hate mail show. So you can maybe find that song somewhere. I'll play it at some point. No more hair jokes. Good eggs should support good eggs. Appreciate all y'all. Y'all are the best. I think that was a fun and productive for the most part conversation. So until the next one, yeet.